My son called me low class and uninvited me from Christmas dinner. He sat in his 5-bedroom mansion, looking down his nose at me, completely forgetting one crucial detail: who actually paid for his luxurious life. For 4 years, I quietly funded his elite lifestyle, his designer suits, and his pristine reputation, while living modestly myself. He thought he was cutting ties with an embarrassing burden. He had no idea he was actually pulling the plug on his own financial lifeline. When Christmas morning arrived, he didn't get the grand holiday celebration he planned. Instead, he got a cold, hard wake-up call that brought his entire high society illusion crumbling to the ground. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where greed always meets its match. If you love stories where arrogant people get a reality check, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment below with the city you're watching from so I can reply to you. My name is Eleanor, and at 38 years old, I built a multi-million-dollar logistics company from absolute scratch. I raised my son, Marcus, on my own, working 16-hour days to give him every advantage. But wealth has a funny way of twisting people who didn't earn it. 2 weeks before Christmas, Marcus invited me to dinner at an outrageously expensive French restaurant downtown. He was attending with his fiancée, Juliana, and her old money family. I wore a simple, elegant navy dress, proud to celebrate with them. But before we even ordered, Marcus pulled me out toward the quiet hallway near the coat check. He didn't look at me with love. He looked at me like a stain on his pristine suit. "Mom," he said, keeping his voice a low, vicious whisper, "I need you to skip Christmas dinner at the house this year. Juliana's parents are high society, and frankly, your background is just too low class. Your presence is going to humiliate me in front of people who actually matter." I stared at my 22-year-old son, the cold cruelty in his eyes cutting deeper than any knife ever could. Standing in that cold restaurant hallway, listening to my son dismiss me as low class, I felt a surreal numbness wash over me. What Marcus seemed to completely forget, or conveniently ignore, was the foundation on which his entire glamorous life was built. For the past 4 years, while I quietly maintained a modest lifestyle, I funded every single luxury he enjoyed. I paid the $2,500 monthly rent on his downtown penthouse. I covered the high-end lease payments on his shiny sports car. I even paid off the executive credit cards he swiped to buy custom-tailored suits and fine dining for his high society friends. Marcus ran a small boutique consulting firm, but he wasn't some self-made business prodigy. His firm only generated income because I personally routed lucrative supply chain subcontracts from my logistics company directly to him. In his eyes, he was an elite young executive who had naturally risen to the top of the social ladder. In reality, he was living inside a gilded bubble entirely manufactured by the mother he now found so embarrassing. He truly believed his wealth was his own genius, completely unaware that without me, his business was nothing more than an empty shell. I drove home in total silence, the hum of the highway doing little to quiet the aching void in my chest. For years, I had convinced myself that paying his bills was just maternal support, a way to shield him from the brutal struggles I faced at his age. But sitting at my desk late that night, surrounded by financial records, the truth was undeniable. I hadn't been protecting Marcus. I had been enabling a monster. He didn't just want my money. He despised the hands that fed him. He wanted the prestige without the sweat, the status without the substance. Tears welled in my eyes, but as I wiped them away, the grief slowly transformed into a sharp, icy clarity. I wasn't going to scream, yell, or plead for his affection. Respect isn't something you beg for from your own child. I picked up my phone and dialed my lead corporate attorney and my senior accountant. "I need a complete review of every personal account, luxury lease, and subcontract tied to Marcus," I told them calmly. Effective immediately. The next morning, my legal and financial teams executed my instructions with clinical precision. First, I officially terminated my personal guarantee on Marcus's downtown penthouse, leaving him 30 days to either qualify for the lease on his own income or face immediate eviction. Next, I instructed the dealership to process the voluntary surrender of the luxury sports car registered under my company's corporate fleet. Then came his executive credit cards. With a few clicks, I canceled every primary and secondary card issued in his name. Finally, I signed the paperwork redirecting all my logistics company's subcontracts away from his consulting firm, routing them back to our primary vendors. Overnight, his revenue stream dropped to absolute zero. I didn't leave an angry voicemail or send a dramatic text. I simply packed my bags, booked a quiet 2-week stay at a seaside resort 3 states away, and set my phone to reject all calls except those from my close friends. Marcus wanted a Christmas without his low-class mother ruining his image. I was more than happy to give him exactly what he asked for, along with the full, unfiltered reality of his actual worth. On Christmas Eve, Marcus was busy playing the ultimate high society host inside his penthouse. He had hired an elite catering team and stocked the bar with aged scotch, eager to impress Juliana's prominent family. But right as the first appetizers were being brought out, the lead caterer approached Marcus with a portable payment terminal. When Marcus swiped his primary executive credit card, the machine emitted a harsh decline beep. He tried a second card, then a third. Every single card was instantly rejected. Embarrassed, he laughed it off as a bank glitch, but the nightmare was only beginning. That night, an official notification popped up on his phone from his landlord, informing him that the primary lease guarantee had been revoked and full back rent was immediately due. The next morning, as Juliana's parents looked on in utter disbelief, a tow truck pulled into the driveway to repossess the sports car parked out front. When Juliana's father confronted Marcus about the sudden chaos, Marcus scrambled for excuses. But the truth was painfully obvious. The grand lifestyle he boasted about was nothing more than an illusion, and the illusion was completely shattered. Desperate, panicked, and entirely undone, Marcus raced over to my house in a borrowed vehicle. He banged furiously on the front door, calling out my name, but the house was completely dark and locked up tight. With nowhere left to turn, he spammed my phone with over 50 frantic missed calls until I finally decided to answer from my balcony, overlooking the ocean.
Mom.
"What did you do?" he screamed, his voice cracking with pure terror. "My cards are canceled. My car was towed, and Juliana's father called me a fraud. You're ruining my life." I listened to his breathless rant with complete calm. "Marcus," I replied softly, "you explicitly told me that I was too low class to be part of your high society world. I simply respected your wishes. A low-class woman shouldn't be funding a high-class lifestyle, don't you think?" Silence hung heavy on the line. The reality hit him like a physical blow. His entire existence was built on my generosity. By the end of the week, Juliana called off the wedding, his wealthy friends vanished, and his empty business collapsed entirely. Sitting by the water, listening to the gentle crash of the waves, I finally felt a profound sense of peace. For years, I believed that love meant giving my child everything, but true parenting sometimes requires teaching hard lessons about humility and respect. Marcus spent the next year working a modest entry-level job, finally learning what it takes to earn a single dollar without a safety net. As for me, I learned that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was necessary for my own dignity. What do you think of how I handled my son? Did I go too far? Or did Marcus get the reality check he desperately needed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of poetic justice, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more episodes on BT Revenge Tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.